The house I worked in belonged to my own daughter, and she had no idea. I cooked her meals every morning. I folded her clothes. I put her son to sleep at night. And every single day she looked right through me, the way you look through any maid, politely, distantly, like I was part of the furniture, and I let her, because I had no right to be anything more, not after what I had done. My name is Christine, and this is the most painful story of my life. I didn't start life like this. 28 years ago, I was 26 years old, living in a small apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. Nothing fancy, 2 rooms, a leaky faucet, a window that looked out onto a parking lot, but it was warm and it was ours. I had a husband named David, quiet man, steady man, and we had a baby girl, 2 years old. We named her Clara. She had David's eyes, deep brown, soft, like looking into something honest, and she had my smile, wide, full, like she already knew the world was going to be good to her. We were not rich, we were not even comfortable, but we were happy, the way people are happy when they don't know yet what is coming. Then one winter, everything came apart at once. David's company shut down without warning, no notice, no final check, just a padlock on the door one Monday morning. And then 3 weeks later he had a stroke, 31 years old. He survived, but he was never the same man after that. He needed care, real care, and I was the only one there to give it. I worked every hour that existed, diners, laundromats, cleaning other people's houses, morning shifts, night shifts, coming home exhausted, leaving before Clara woke up. But the bills were always bigger than my hours. And then one evening there was a knock on my door. A social worker, kind face, clipboard in her hands, a voice that was too calm for what she was about to say. She told me Clara wasn't getting what she needed, not because I was a bad mother, but because I was one person carrying what 4 people couldn't carry. That night I didn't sleep. I held Clara until 4 in the morning. I memorized her, every eyelash, the tiny crease behind her knee, the way she smelled like warm milk and something sweet. I told her things she was too young to understand. I told her I loved her. I told her I was sorry. I told her she was going to be okay, better than okay. And in the morning, with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, I signed the papers. I walked out of that building without her, and something inside me that had never broken before broke that day. David passed away 14 months later, quietly, in the night, and I was completely alone with nothing but the weight of what I'd given away. I moved from Memphis to Atlanta. I couldn't stay where her memory lived on every corner. I cleaned houses, hotels, office buildings. I was good at disappearing into work, good at making myself invisible. Years passed. 10, 15, 20, 25. I aged in ways I didn't expect. Grey in my hair, ache in my knees, a silence in my chest that never filled, but I never stopped thinking about Clara. I just learnt to think about her quietly, like a prayer you say every day, even when you don't believe the answer is coming. And then one afternoon, the agency called, a private home in Connecticut, live-in position, good pay, stable hours. I said yes. I had no idea what I was walking into. The house was beautiful, not cold, not showy, warm, lived in, real, flowers on the porch, wind chimes by the front door, books on every shelf inside. The woman who hired me came to the door herself, early 30s, composed, polished, polite. Her name was Claire. Something moved in my chest when she said it. A small thing. I told myself it was nothing. She shook my hand firmly and looked me in the eyes. I'm glad you're here, Christine. This house needs someone steady. I told her I would take good care of things. She showed me around. Big kitchen, warm light, crayon drawings from childhood still hanging like they were precious. She casually told me about her adoptive parents, like one would casually tell a maid. I noticed her face, her jawline, the way it held itself. Then I got to work. The routine came easily. Breakfast, dishes, laundry, dinner, repeat. Her husband James was a surgeon, rarely home before 8. They had a son named Ethan, 5 years old, loud, bright, full of questions. He followed me room to room. "Christine, why do you fold it like that? Christine, what's your favourite food? Christine, do you have any kids?" I always stopped at that one. "Not anymore," I would say, and then I would change the subject. Claire was professional with me, always grateful, never unkind, but there was a distance she kept, like she had learned early to hold the world at arm's length. I understood that, I lived that way too, but slowly, week by week, small things started pulling at something inside me. The way she laughed, sudden, bright, catching herself off guard, the way she tilted her head when she was reading, the way she hummed while she made her morning coffee, soft, unconscious, like she didn't even know she was doing it. I knew that hum. Somewhere deep and wordless and old inside me, I knew it. But I said nothing. I kept my head down. I did my work. 3 months in, something shifted between us. Claire came home one evening looking completely hollowed out. Sat at the kitchen table without even taking off her coat. I didn't ask anything. I just put a cup of tea in front of her. She looked up at me. Something moved behind her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. We sat in silence. Then she spoke. "Did you know I was adopted?" I kept my face completely still. "No," I said. "I didn't." She wrapped both hands around the mug. "I've been thinking about it lately, about her, my birth mother. I used to wonder if she ever thought about me." I looked down at the table, at my hands, old hands now, tired hands, hands that had once held a baby girl and then let her go. "I'm sure she does," I said, "every single day of her life." Claire looked at me for a long, quiet moment. Then she stood up, said good night, and went upstairs. I sat alone in her kitchen, and for the first time in many years, I cried. The following week, Claire asked me to help clear the attic. Old boxes, forgotten shelves, the kind of place where a family's past gets quietly stored. We worked in silence, sorting, stacking, donating. Then Claire opened a box she hadn't touched in years. A stuffed bear with one eye missing, a card from her adoptive mother, old school drawings, and then at the very bottom an old folded letter. She opened it slowly. It was from the adoption agency, official, dated, 28 years old. Her hands slowed as she read it. I was on the other side of the attic folding an old blanket, not watching. And then at the very end of that letter, there were 2 lines, a physical description of the birth mother, height, eye colour, a small scar on the left hand from a childhood fall. Claire read those 2 lines, and then she went completely still because I have that scar. I have always had that scar. And without saying a word, she stood up slowly and walked toward me. She reached out and gently took my left hand in hers. She turned it over, and there it was. That small, pale scar sitting exactly where the letter said it would be. She looked at it for a long time. Then she looked up at my face. Her eyes were filling with tears. Her chin was trembling. Her whole body was trembling. "This is you," she whispered, not a question. A realization landing all at once. "This is you," she said again, quieter, like saying it twice made it real. I opened my mouth, and then the only true word came, "Yes." She stepped back like the ground moved. "You knew," she said, voice breaking. "All this time you knew?" "No," I said quickly. "I didn't know Claire. The agency sent me here. I didn't ask for your address. I didn't search for you. I promise I didn't know." But when I first saw you, something felt familiar, and I kept telling myself I was just being foolish. She pressed her hand over her mouth. I stepped forward, one small step. Clara, that name. That name I had not said out loud in 28 years. I have thought about you every single day, every single one, not one passed where I didn't. She didn't reach for me. She didn't fall into my arms. This wasn't a movie. This was real, and real things are never clean. She just stood there crying, and I stood there too, letting her feel everything she needed to feel. That night we sat at the kitchen table until past midnight. No music, no television, just two women and 28 years of silence sitting between them. She asked me everything, why I gave her up, what David was like, what I did after, where I had been. I answered everything honestly, all of it, even the parts that made me look small, even the parts I was ashamed of, because she deserved the real truth, not the version I had made peace with, the actual one. She was quiet for a long time when I finished. Then she said something I will carry forever. When I was a teenager, I used to imagine meeting you. In my head, you were someone who just didn't want me. And I was so angry for so long. But sitting here now, looking at your hands, at how tired you are, I don't think you left me because you didn't love me. I think you left me because you loved me and had nothing left to give. I put my face in my hands and I wept in a way I had not wept since the morning I walked out of that building without her. Not because she forgave me, she didn't say that, not that night, but because she understood. And sometimes understanding is the door that forgiveness walks through later. I still work in that house. And last Tuesday, in the quiet hallway when no one else was around, she looked at me and said one word. She called me Mum. If this story reached your heart, comment. She came home below. And if you have ever lost someone and found them again in the most unexpected way, share your story because someone out there needs to hear it.